Golf Podcast, an average podcast for the average disc golfer. As always, I'm Evan Danstutz, this week joined by Matt Hoffman. We're happy you could join us. Matt, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing so good. I'm so excited to be finally on the podcast, even though I'm kind of on the podcast every week, but actually getting the chance to sit down and hang out. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, this is going to be Matt Hoffman unfiltered. I don't know how in the hell I'm going to edit this because we might just go off on all these tangents, even though I said 30 minutes max.
I hope your quack box is ready.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's gonna get interesting. We're gonna talk about a few things here. Like you moving up from novice to rec and what that process was like and what you've been working on, want to work on, and all that. But let's start out talking about the World Championship, the AM World Championship, or
I
lack
guess we should,
thereof.
the lack thereof.
Yeah, I was telling you today in our round, I believe the technical term for how many holes they've played is fuck all.
Yeah, see, some of our friends are still in the middle. We're on technically day 3 of Worlds, and we are on round 2 or even 1.5.
Yes, there are plenty of people. The leader for MA1 hasn't even teed off yet. We are recording at 8 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. And the leader of the men's side of the World Championship has not even teed off yet. Which, side note, that kid was behind the group behind me at the Masters Cup. Absolute beast. Like, the fact that he's leading right now is not surprising in the slightest.
That's pretty sick. We've got lots of friends out on the course right now, or they're just finishing up. We have our own co-host sitting on Kim Hatcher playing in. We've got Professor Disc Golf.
Yep.
We've got some Jacksonville people hanging out in chat, or I guess in the game. We've got Jonathan Crow. We've got some FJ18 friends with Trinity Bryant. And we even have some local Jacksonville friends in the junior 15 division. Shout out my boy Arias. I hope you're having a great round.
Yeah, it's been exciting to watch as much as like we can from home. For those who have not been keeping track, there's been a bit of a smoky Canadian situation that has been affecting the World Championship. Halfway through round 1, they had to suspend play because the smoke from Canadian wildfires has been so bad that they deemed the air quality unsafe for play. So Wednesday, the second day, they decided to cancel play for the entire day. So today, Kim had to play half of a round and is now playing her second round. So she played the rest of her first round and now is playing her second round. There were people who didn't even tee off yet in the MA1 division. And so that group had to play Northwood Black this morning, followed by Wildlife this evening. Talk about a brutal day of disc golf.
Yeah, I don't know that as much as I want to play those courses, I don't know that you could pay me to play those back to back in a tournament setting. That sounds beat you down, beat you down, beat you down. Hey, let's go do it again. Beat you down, beat you down, beat you down.
Right. I mean, Northwood Black is probably, I don't know if this is a stretch to say, but probably the hardest course on tour. I can't think of anything that's harder, at least as far as what the winning score or the hot round generally is.
Yeah, I would say nothing stands out. Northwood Black is the term that you hear for hardest course, but like there's probably a course hidden in some woods out in like God knows
Tennessee.
where, Sweden just sitting there
Yeah.
waiting for the new title of probably hardest course. But when my mind goes to hardest course, I think of Northwood Black.
Yeah. So the MA1 division is playing at least 2 rounds at, I guess now just 2 rounds at Northwood Black. Shout out to Josh, Professor Disc Golf, for making his goal of making the cut because there is no cut anymore. They got rid of the 5th round entirely, and everybody plays on Saturday. So go Josh. Goal
Let's
achieved.
go. Let's go, Josh.
No, I think this is a no pictures on the scorecard situation. But yeah, I almost went to this year's Worlds, but then little behind the scenes, last week's was actually pre-recorded. I was over in Alaska on vacation, which was super cool, but the way that vacation got planned out, because it was not my planning, I would have got back to Seattle for a flight to Peoria on Sunday, had to learn both Northwood Black and Wildlife on Monday, and then play based on my rating. I would have been in the B pool, play Northwood Black on Tuesday. So with that, plus the wildfire smoke, I'm kind of retrospectively thankful that I did not go. As painful as it was to make that decision of, man, it's going to ruin my vacation because I'm going to be worried about Worlds and trying to make sure that I'm eating all the right stuff and still practicing and all that. Like, it would have, to go through all that stress during vacation to then have that kind of Worlds. Not that there's anything that the TDs did wrong. I mean, their hands are tied. I would not want to be a TD in that situation.
With 800 people on course, and you're sitting there going, "What do we do? Oh, let's just take an entire day and a half, almost now 2 full days off." I,
Right.
whoa,
Because
power to
there's
them.
another weather delay too.
Yep.
So they kind of got hosed every which way. It's definitely difficult for the players. Feel for them, feel for the TD and the event staff, because they're in a tough situation with a bunch of people wanting to play. Uh, you got all this liability stuff with air quality. Like, what do you do? Not We're not going to talk about it because it's not even worth talking about. But recent lawsuits show that people will sue for this dumbest thing. Like, you can't, as the PDGA, take the risk of putting people out there when they know the air quality is very poor and very dangerous,
Yeah,
of making people play.
I don't know that air quality is going to sit on my PDGA waiver this time, but it might start becoming a new feature on the East Coast PDGA waiver form.
Yeah, who knows? It's a crazy situation. Too bad for everybody involved, but everybody's making the best of it, and we'll just see how things shake out. Matt, you made some interesting posts while I was gone on my trip. What do we got going on the Instagram page? For those who don't know,
Oh,
Matt is our social media manager. So sometimes things just pop up on Instagram and I go, "What is this?"
we just finished up. The wonderful Dish Shop gave us a DD1 to give away. We got that given out. But this week we have probably one of the prettiest, I don't even throw dynamic discs, but one of the prettiest discs that I've ever seen, with this Lucid Evader that has one of the prettiest rainbow rims I've ever seen. That's going to be out. Entries are still going live. We have it up until next Friday. So I believe that will be the 7th. We're going to roll that. July 7th is when we're going to roll that. It might be next Wednesday. July 7th. No, next Friday. I'm right. Next Friday, July 7th.
Yep, next Friday. Awesome. Yeah, that spin die is done by our friend of the show, Spike Heiser Dies. You can find his stuff on Instagram at shdies_DG and check out what he has to offer in his Etsy shop, or you can hit him up and ask for custom stuff. He does all sorts of incredible stuff. And if you don't end up winning that giveaway, you can still get discs from the disc shop at a discount. Because you're a listener, use our code on their new website, MDG Pod, same website of the disc shop, but still use our code MDG Pod, and that gets you 10% off. And I think they're running a deal right now, 20% off until through July 4th. So definitely go check out the disc shop. Plenty of awesome stuff that's on sale. Definitely go check out Spike Heiser Dies. incredible dies, and he's so creative. I think one of my favorite ones that he did recently was his Gary dose. Did you see that one, Matt?
Oh my God, it's so pretty. I'm so sad that I haven't been able to send in any discs since I am getting ready to do a big move. But I'm
Huh.
so excited that once I get up north, that I'm sending him a nice a nice big box to start getting some work done on.
That yeah, that will definitely be cool to see what he can do for you. So speaking of that, Matt, where are you moving to? Tell the people.
Yeah, trust me, I'm going a little bit further than I ever planned. But the wife and I accepted some new jobs. We are heading up to Rhode Island. I'm an hour away from Maple Hill, baby. 1 hour.
That's gonna be sick.
Season pass is already paid for. I'm trying to plan out when I want to go up there for the first time. I'm 61 minutes away, so just got to figure out what Saturday I just want to head up there, get around in, just try golds once, probably on the one afternoon. But I cannot wait to get out there.
Yeah, I'll have to go up and play Maple Hill. I mean, visit you at some point.
No, I totally understand. You now have the friend who can get you into Maple Hill and the friend who is able to get you there pretty low price with the season pass. So we're pretty excited.
Yeah, that will be super cool. And I, I got to be honest with you, Matt. When I first met you at the 2022 Throwdown the Mountain, picturing that Matt playing Maple Hill is really funny in my head. But you've made so many just like ridiculous improvements. We were playing today, and I don't think you would have been able to shoot remotely what you shot today.
No, I did struggle today in our round. It was I haven't thrown in 2 weeks, but it's always good to get out to the home course, one of the home courses with Springfield, and just have some fun. We did play my first time playing the longs at Springfield, so it was a good time. But yeah, definitely kicked my butt a little bit, but I had a great time, and I'm excited to see more and more rounds on the longs as we're going to talk about in a little bit as I continue to move up through the rating scale.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about your disc golf background and like what you've done to get to where you are, what divisions have you played in, all that good stuff.
Oh God, I've been playing for a little over a year now. I started off really in April of 2022. I showed up just to I got invited by a mutual friend, Kyle Patterson, aka KP, as we call
What up,
him, where
KP?
KP and I worked together, and I saw he had the holy shot graphic on his wall, and he was just like, "Yeah, I play. You ever thought about playing?" I've played object golf at church camp, and camp around whenever you're hanging out, you're throwing ultimate frisbee at the light pole, hole in one, all that fun stuff. But I never took it any more than that. Had no idea it was that big of a sport until I think everyone did when James Conrad did the thing, and just put it on Sports Center for the first time and was like, "Look at this."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he just gave me a drawstring bag with like 8 discs in it, and he told me to just go throw them in a parking lot, and that's kind of what I did. Um, and I had just the most fun watching an old PDGA Discraft video from like 2009 on form. And it was, I think it might have even have been like Avery Jenkins just offering how to throw a disc. And my dumb butt was just sitting there with a 12 speed trying to figure out why it wasn't going straight. It was a Nautilus, I think, or some ridiculously overstable Innova disc from the USDGC that year that was just thrown in the bag. And I was
Nice.
just destroying it into my big ass parking lot, just not knowing what to do. Um, and then a week later, I got invited to come shoot around at probably the wildest course I could have imagined, and met you all at Throwdown the Mountain weekend too.
Yeah, his first real round was at Throw Down the Mountain. So for those who have not watched coverage, go watch coverage of that and picture someone who's brand spanking new. Like Novice doesn't even describe how new Matt was at this point. Like it's similar to going out to Maple Hill for your first round of disc golf ever.
I still remember what was in my bag. I had two eraser wizards. I had two extra soft origins. I had an exo method. I had an what people would call an FD2, an instinct, and 12 speed over stable Innova driver. And I had no idea what I was doing. And we just had fun.
Yeah, and to your credit, you caught on really quickly that that instinct was going to be very good for you.
Yeah, the instinct is really good. And I have to admit, the origin is my favorite disc ever made. Is I have maybe 10 of them in every plastic I could imagine. I have two in my bag currently. The Midnight Prowl is probably the greatest understable mid-range ever made. That's my opinion. But shout out Kyle Klein. But it is just such a wild course for 2 weeks in.
Yeah, and you played pretty solid for all considering.
I think I
You
shot 18 over was the goal, and I hit 18 over.
yeah, played bogey golf,
See if I can
which
scroll back in my UDIS that far.
but yeah, you started just like any other novice player. It's actually funny to hear that you hear about the COVID baby. You're probably the first person I've heard of that. I'm gonna call you James Conrad baby of you the holy shot. You knew what that was, and that's kind of what piqued your interest.
Yeah, 100%. I think everyone, I mean, I think there's always the joke that you sit and watch. You're sitting on YouTube at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it just, oh, Paul Macbeth shot 18 under. I don't know what any of that meant. I mean, I understood golf background, but I didn't know anything about discraft or disc. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know anything about disc golf. I didn't know anything about Paul Macbeth. Wow, this dude just lit up this course. That's really cool. And
Right.
then one night I'm home, I'm in undergrad, and James Conrad just hits one of the greatest shots imaginable from downtown, puts Worlds into a playoff, and you're like, as any sports enthusiast, you're like, doesn't matter how cool, doesn't matter if you don't know anything. That is the coolest thing on earth, watching someone just walk it off like that. And then going on to beat who at the time was and still is considered to be one of the greatest players of all time. So it was just an absolute insane way to get into the game.
Definitely. What so I'm going to tell you what I think the most improved thing for you was since I've seen you since KP brought you out for day one. And then I wanted to hear what your opinion of what your most improved thing is. And actually, I'm going to give you two things. One is your putting. Like you had this really funny, like send it into orbit, super high push putt that you've really narrowed your window of possibility of making it to like maybe 7 inches of the entire face of the basket because it was coming in from so high. And that was also the time when you you were told jump putt. You kind of understood what the jump putt was intending, but because your putt was throw it really high and hope it falls in the basket, you would jump vertically to jump putt.
It's a jump putt. What do you mean?
Right. It was like the funniest thing that we had ever seen. We're like, is this guy serious? But I mean, you were making him to your credit, but that definitely improved. And then your mental approach, I think you've gotten a lot better at breaking down a hole.
I would definitely let's start with the mental game. I think
Okay.
that's one of the biggest parts of even just starting to take the game, I think, even just a little bit seriously. I would say the first 8 or 9 months, I was probably the worst person on the planet to play with when everything started to go wrong. And I'll own up to that. I will be honest about it. I was a pain in the ass. And I think there's no denying that. And I think when you're on the course and you're having fun, I think it needs to be there to have fun. Doesn't matter if you're playing an MA4, MA1. It's a game and you're having as much fun as possible. Um, And most of the time, especially in the local tournaments, you're going to be probably with your friends. You're going to be people with and if you start losing it on the course, those people are going to remember that the next time you're at league. People are going to remember it the next time you're at a casual round or mediocre Thursdays. People are going to remember like how Matt acted on a Saturday at Throwdown, or how he acted at the Jack's Jam or something like that. And I think taking the game, understanding how much fun it was, realizing there's a lot of things I can control and a lot of things I can't control. Like I can't control the way it's going to kick off a tree. I wish I could.
Yeah, best way to control the way it kicks off a tree is don't hit the tree.
Exactly. And I think just understanding that I am not Paul Macbeth. I am not the top 10 players in the world. I'm going to make mistakes, and so do they. And I think just putting into perspective of it's a game. We're here to have fun. You're here to make memories. You're here to possibly win an event. And there's a time to get serious when you're trying to win that event. But at the end of the day, you're going to do better when you're the most relaxed and you're having fun and you're joking around. And I think once all of that set in, I think my game drastically improved once even that.
You made a huge leap once that you made that realization.
Because I think it made me more approachable. It made people want to go, hey, man, I think this would really work for you. Or it allowed me to be coachable. Because people were like, well, if I tell him this, he's just going to blow up on me because his way or the highway. And I also realized that from being around people who were like that. And I was like, oh my God, I am that asshole. And so kind of putting into perspective of that. And also I am surrounded with some incredible people who have gotten me to a very good spot so far. And I can't wait to keep going with it. You, Josh, Kim, KP, shout out John Prince, the homie who is the mental god. That man will keep you calm no matter what is going on.
I've only seen him been broken on like 2 rounds, and one of them I think was just pure exhaustion. The other one he was just completely done with that event. But he always has some sort of quip or words of wisdom. The one that I have really been hanging on to lately is we're not out here to pay the bills, and if we are, we're playing in the wrong division and we're too stupid to pay the bills.
Exactly. And he's always the one person who will shoot you a text to be like, hey man, even if he's not at the tournament, he's following along the PDGA. He's like, hey man, great round. Hey man, keep your head up. I guarantee you, if I were to go play a tournament tomorrow, he would be the first one to be like, good luck. And so I know that I have people who I've surrounded myself with to be that kind of support, and even those both mental and physical coaches in the game.
Aww.
Yeah, Evan, you're pretty okay, I guess.
Thanks, bud.
To the putting part, yeah. I was bad Paige Pierce. I mean, that's just what it was. Put the disc over my head, let it go, just see what happened. Paige is a 5-time world champion, and I'm not. So
the difference between the putting difference between you and Paige Pierce is her little flick above her head. She doesn't let go of the disc when she does that. You would.
I would skip that part.
It would release at your eyes. It was the funniest thing.
Yeah, I would skip that part of the video because I would see the windup. I'd just, get that first 5 seconds. And be like, all right, cool, I got it, and just move on. But I think the biggest thing was, one, taking the time to find the right putter. Because I've tried 4 or 5 different putters, and I'm still only a year in. And I think I've finally now settled on the putter that is making me very happy. I went from Wizards to Warlocks, shout out Gateway. For some reason, I found the most expensive Warlock you could find, and then had to buy them all because I was really good at them. And then they stopped making them, and so I had to move on. And then I tried a couple of different iterations of P2, and finally stuck on to the Flex 1 P2. I really like the softness and how it holds up to hitting the cage over and over again. And that's just what's in my bag now. I've got a stack of Flex 1 P2s, and they're my babies right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll never forget our argument about finger in front of the disc or below the disc in your putting grip. That was a good Matt Hoffman moment.
That was a game changer, and I'm sorry for the argument I put up against it. Put your finger under the rim, balance it on the edge of the rim. It does not need to be out in front like you're holding a fastball. It's going to help you consistently hit at least chains. It's not going to push it to the left. It's not going to push it to the right. It's going to help you consistently get into that basket, whether you're kicking out or not. But at least you're going to be somewhat accurate.
Yeah, and I really do think now that we've talked about it more that your mental game is what's elevated you very quickly from the novice skill level to rec borderline intermediate skill level. You just have to get that consistency for the intermediate, but you can throw the intermediate shots. I think you've gotten a lot better, and this goes to anybody who's trying to make that next leap to the higher division, especially in those lower divisions. It's about, and I think we did an episode a long time ago about this. It's about breaking down the whole understanding where a good miss is and where a bad miss is. Do I run this putt? Do I not? There are plenty of mental quandaries out there on the disc golf course. Like there's hole 16 at Northside in Gainesville that it looks like the safe play is to lay up because it's a double island hole. But realistically, the best play is to just bomb away at the second island. If you're short, you're putting for par from the first island. If you're long, you're putting from par from like 15 feet away from the basket.
Yeah,
So it's been interesting watching you learn stuff like that. Like when we went to Valdosta for a practice round, you just being a sponge and absorbing everything that Josh and I were telling you about how to play in the woods. And I still learn a ton of stuff from players like Josh. And Josh still learns a ton. Like you can never stop learning.
I really did love that Valdosta trip because I was the only one playing from shorts on that Valdosta trip. So I had
Yep.
a lot of time to sit and think. There were what, 6 of us on that practice round we
Yes.
got up. There was me, you, Josh, Corey, Cody, their partner, their
Evan.
buddy, Evan, and then me. All 5 of you were playing from the longs. And so I would take the small trek or hike up to the shorts and just sit and stare at the hole.
Yep.
And I think other than just not really being prepared for an A level and also having the funniest 13-year-old on my card, set me up for at least doing the best that I could in that tournament. That it was really fun to watch and listen to what you guys were talking about, not having input because it wasn't my tee box, wasn't my spot. And I know Kim talked about this, like not playing. Sometimes you want to play the longs because you want to be with everybody else, and sometimes you want to play shorts because that's where you're supposed to be. It felt good to be on the shorts doing my thing and still listening to like, hey, I'm throwing something flippy here, and me going, I'm not going to do that because it looks way different. But if I had heard that standing there at the same time, I'd been like, I don't need to throw flippy here, and just learning and learning and learning. It's what's so good about being surrounded by people who are so much better than you.
What would you say for the, because I mean, we'll call it what it is. You went from novice to mediocre. What would you say for the people who are in that novice range and or are really just trying to move up to that next division? What would you say was your key to moving up?
I'm gonna say something that's gonna make a little bit of sense, but also not a whole lot of sense if you don't follow ball golf. John Daly talked about how being within 150 yards is key to becoming the best golfer. And it's not about you throwing 300, 400 off of the tee box. It's about how you hit that second or third shot up to the basket. And I think if you can find that really reliable approach disc, that really reliable mid range, it's not going to matter what you're doing off the tee box. You could hit first available every time, but if you grab that mid range, knowing exactly how it's going to feel in your hand, exactly how it's going to be coming out of your hand every time, I think makes a world of difference to move up. When I found the tactic, I know we call it the more expensive zone. It became my confidence throwing 150-foot up shots dramatically increased because it felt good in my hand. I knew how it was going to come out. I know how it beats in. Just take the time to get, I would say, your 6 speed and under comfortable.
Yeah, I I can definitely see that. I definitely agree that you think about it, majority of your shots are the approach and your putting, like at least half. So that's where everybody needs to improve no matter what level you're at.
I would say even at I'm no one's perfect at those 300 and less shots. No one's the greatest of all time at it. Even the greatest in the world are going to duff one into the dirt. I love watching. That's why I love watching the practice rounds on Jomez because they seem so human, and it makes me
Yeah.
feel so much better about my game because like they'll throw 3, 4 off the tee. The first one goes into the trees. Second one hits the cage. Third one hits the other side of the fairway, and so it just I think if you can take the time, get those 6 speed and under comfortable, and really rely on those, you're going to become a much better disc golfer.
I couldn't agree more. Oh, do you have any other words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up today's show?
No, man, just have fun on the disc golf course. And listen to the heater. If you haven't, Uncrustables are the greatest thing to keep in your backpack. I'm so glad that that hill has been climbed by others. I have seen some shout outs from some people on course going, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard. So it makes me feel good. And as always, just have fun. The game's so much fun when you have fun.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps it up for today. You can find Matt on Instagram at HoffyDG and me at Evan AmstutzdG. Remember to follow the pod on Instagram at Mediocre Disc Golf Pod and on Twitter at Mediocre DG Pod. If you want to support us, buy our shirts on mythicdiscgolf.com and listen to us every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed the show, leave us 5 stars in a review. And if you didn't, still give us 5 stars and tell us why. We know we aren't perfect because we are mediocre. Have a good night.